I don't wanna be crazy no more. Every time I think you're gonna walk out of my door, I start to jump to the conclusion you don't love me no more. Babe, give me some to work with, can you just reassure me? I'll end it before it starts. Call it protecting my heart. Hurt disguised as strength, but it self-sabotage my love. Self-sabotage my love. Cause of my own pain. No one's coming to save you, baby girl. You got to save yourself. Hey, save you, baby girl. You got to save yourself. I don't wanna be crazy no more. Every time I question what my future has in store, I get to panicking anxiety, can't live here no more. No more. So I'll convince myself that I don't want what I really want. I'll end it before it starts. Call it protecting my heart. Hurt disguised as strength, but it self-sabotage my love. Self-sabotage my love. The root of my own pain. No one's coming. Save you, baby girl. Hey, you got to save yourself. No one's coming. Save you, baby girl. Hey, yeah, you got to save yourself. Save yourself. You did that. Yeah, you crossed the line about 1,000 times and I did that. Yeah, I stayed a while, tried to make it right. Cigarette. No, I never smoked, but my heart is broke, explosive. Stressing for that old thing back. That initial love, all the goosebumps, those flutters in my gut, turn into disgust. What a waste of love, babe. I just wanna go back to how it was, lay in each other's arms all day. Send me gifts just because. Tell me where we went wrong. Started out as homies, ended up as lovers. How'd it get so ugly? Can't we rediscover, baby, what it was? Or let's be honest, it was just a love bomb. You were so romantic, we were picture perfect. So much freaking passion, why we never got it back, babe? It was just a love bomb. Really wish you didn't push me away. I was willing to try long as it takes. I would never say we were a mistake, but fleeting romance doesn't a lifetime make. That initial love, all the goosebumps, those flutters in my gut, turn into disgust. What a
What's up? What's going on? What's going on? Hope everybody's doing okay. Thank you for tuning in today. Please hit a one if you can actually hear my mic. Um, I don't know what's been going on with my live streaming lately, but I thought I had my setup correct. I thought I had everything right, and then nothing was nothing was going right. BCDC 123. Thank you. Welcome. 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 All right. So I don't like to linger around because I definitely like to get right into things. Last week I tried doing this live stream on. It's basically on my Think Like a Therapist kind of series, and my goal is for you guys to really be able to pick up on how to find out who's a narcissist, find out who's antisocial, like being able to be like pseudo masters at being able to kind of crack the code, because I have seen so many relationships that have crumbled and somebody has left these relationships being just hurt, being distraught because they were in a relationship with a narcissist or somebody who's had the narcissistic traits, and it has been so damaging and manipulating to them that they don't know how to love again. They get into future relationships and now they're a little bit toxic themselves, and they don't realize some of the toxic traits that they carry. So when I started off when I started the stream last week, what's going on, Laura? When I started the live stream last week, I talked about being you guys going to school with somebody like the perfect model student, like the student that was your friend, the student that you know they tell you about their family background and you find out that like they have like an abusive father, they have a mother that is incredibly toxic, and like they're going up inside his home with abuse and all kind and neglect and abandonment, all these types of things going on. And you look at them in school and it's like, is this really going on at home for them? Because they're getting straight A's, they are in every extracurricular club, like they're the most personable person, like they seem to be friends with everyone, they always come to school with a smile, and you're wondering like, how in the world could this person be so upbeat and lively and friendly when they're going through hell at home? That is the problem. What's going on? Kawhi Bree 123. That's been the problem, is that we haven't looked under the hood at these people. We look at them when they grow up, and we'll still look at their Instagrams and their social media, and for all we know, their life is fantastic. Like they putting pictures up on Instagram of like where they're going and what they're doing. They're always throwing that positive quote for the day up, and you look at them like, dang, I need to be more like this person. But then we don't realize, looking under the hood, we don't realize that this person is now showing these personality traits that on the outside we look at and we think that, oh, these are great, he's such a good person. We don't realize that they're actually toxic traits. We don't realize that perfectionism that they've shown comes at a cost to everybody around them. That they seek that perfectionism at the cost of their friendships. They become manipulative people. They become interpersonally manipulative. They lack empathy. They're arrogant. Like all these small subtle things that we notice in people, going forward. We might notice a couple of these traits inside of, some of the people that we're close to, but we never do a tally and see how many of these traits this person is actually showing. So of course I always go into like the people that is, the celebrities that are out there that are like just extreme personalities. We always talk about oh, Laura, ignore the Streamlabs bot. It's not a real person. It's a bot. I gotta like reconfigure it so it doesn't start doing stuff like that. Um, we don't take time analyze these people, find out what they're really about. These celebrities, we know. You hear me talk about the Derek Jacksons, the LeBron James, the people that on the outside we look at them like, oh man, they're so, you know, they're so inspirational. And of course, with Derek Jackson, a lot of women listen to him because they feel like even though his personal life is not a reflection of what he talks about, he's still giving good advice that they should be able to follow. Not realizing that if a person is a hypocrite to what they are talking about and what they're preaching about, then there's probably some type of flaw in the message that they're presenting. So yeah, maybe he's presenting some things that you can take some positives from, but are those positives necessarily positive? Are those pipe dreams? Are those fantasies of things that we say that we want in relationships, but in truth, it doesn't exist in real relationships? And that is the problem, is that these types of people, these narcissists, fill our heads up with these very lofty ideals and these fantasies. And when you think about it in therapist talk, is these preoccupations with brilliance, beauty, idyllic love, these fantasies that are grandiose in nature. They exist in a perfect world like what we've watched in Disney movies and things like that. But when it comes to your life, when it comes to what you actually do in life and what your relationships look like, it's not something that's able to be emulated. So your relationships fail. You get cheated on, you get left, you get heartbroken, and now you're picking up the pieces thinking that, oh, this is that other person. This is their fault because they weren't able to hold up to this high standard. When no, the problem is the standard that you set in your mind. And when you really think about it, when you really take a step back and think about it, why do we have a concept of perfection? There's something inherently wrong with us having a picture in our mind of what is perfect. Who we got? Seat at the... Thank you so much for the super chat. Seat at the table with Uncle Stu. Appreciate you. I haven't heard from you in a long time. It's good to see you again. How's it going, Uncle Stu? Check out his channel when you get a chance. Like, it's called Seat at the Table with Uncle Stu now, but he talks about a lot of things that has to do with our community, and like it's a lot of different perspectives from our elders or people that have more wise than that are more wise than us and have seen more things. So he brings a great perspective. So definitely check him out. But okay, so I digress. So what I was talking about is we don't I lost my train of thought, y'all. I'm sorry. But anyway, that's just a clear indication that I've been talking too long. Oh, it worked out. Look at that. That's my new that's my new thing, y'all. If y'all see it on the screen. So that's what happens when you get a super chat now. It pops up on the screen. I'll call them mini love bombs. So whenever you guys contribute anything, you should hear a bomb on the screen and that big heart come up with your donation. Uncle Stu, I appreciate that so much. Yeah, I just want to definitely honor you guys and thank you for anything that you contribute. And I do want to make sure that I let it be known that any donations that or cash apps or love bombs that I receive go towards our nonprofit, which is the Center for Family and Community Empowerment. And this nonprofit is something that we go into schools and we provide mental health services for students. So especially students that look like me, look like us, even if you don't look like me. But it's meant for all students that are from underserved populations that don't have access to like real good clinicians, that don't have access to like resources and entrepreneurship things. I want to make sure that our communities are receiving the types of things that they need. Oh, Luke Casely for a $5 super sticker. Thank you so much. I don't know if it pops up on the screen for the for super stickers. I hope it does though. If not, I'll make a special one for you. But yeah, the nonprofit is all about making sure that my goal is to create a school-based empowerment program in all of our underserved schools, and that makes sure that all of those kids there have a clinician on site, a therapist on site, and a youth development person who is responsible for one, giving kids, just like I'm talking to y'all about personality disorders. I want them to be taught about that too, because inside of their high school relationships, y'all listen, I don't know if y'all got any kids or anybody or know any young people in high school right now. They are in some very adult relationships. Some of them are in some incredibly toxic relationships, and some of them are dating. Oh, it did come up, Luke. Thank you so much. Thank you for the love bomb, Luke Hazley. Some of them are in relationships with people that are narcissists, that have antisocial personalities, that have borderline personality, and a lot of these are undiagnosed, thinking that, oh well, they're in high school. How can you can't tell somebody has a personality disorder? They're in high school. Yes, you can. You can diagnose it as early as 5 years old. But even if it's not a diagnosis, just our kids need to grow up and know what a safe and secure, emotionally healthy relationship looks like, so that way when they become adults, they're not toxic. And so that's one of the main things that the nonprofit is for. So every super chat, super sticker, any donation that comes in goes towards being able to fund that program. So thank you so much for your donations. I sincerely appreciate it. Rena says, is it hard to diagnose PD in youth? Yes, it is. It is incredibly difficult because there's a stigma attached to diagnosis, one, especially in Black and brown communities. Two, it's hard to determine whether the personality characteristics that you're seeing in young people, if they are attributed to their youth and where they are in their lifespan, or if it's attributed to part of an actual disorder. And like I said before, please don't worry about the Streamlabs thing. I got to go into the system and change it so that it doesn't like come at y'all for writing in all caps. I have no problem with you writing in all caps, so it's not going to do anything to you. So just ignore it. So it's difficult to diagnose, but people that are trained clinicians can actually really pick it out, because trained clinicians will actually look at that person in the context of their family and the context of their community. They'll look at, the structure of their family and closely look at like some of the things that they're saying and their behaviors and patterns that match to be able to accurately diagnose it. So yeah, it's very hard, but it can be done with, a skilled therapist. So all that being said, we tried to do last week was our beginning of a case conceptualization. I talked to y'all about a couple that we were dealing with, and with this couple, I wanted y'all to be able to pick out who in this relationship is the narcissist. Some of y'all guessed, I don't know if all of y'all were here that were on last week. Some of y'all guessed it was the mother-in-law. Some of you guessed it was the wife, but I've condensed everything now. So what we're going to do is you guys are now the therapist. You guys are going to be in the driver's seat. I'm going to play for you the descriptions, and these are very condensed descriptions of each of these people. You're going to hear about Jazz, then you're going to hear about Charles, and then you're also going to hear a little bit about Kim. You got to pay attention, and this is where you really think like therapists. When I'm saying think like therapists, whenever I'm talking to someone or working with someone, I'm doing a bunch of things at the same time. I'm paying attention to their tone of voice. I'm paying attention to their posture. I'm paying attention to their eyes. I'm paying attention to the things that they say in particular, I'm paying attention to things that they repeat. So I'm paying attention to what I'm listening for is themes, things that they pick, things that they repetitively say that give me an indication of what's really in their heart. And so you can really tell that with a person that you're dealing with. Somebody might bring up might use a certain word, might use it 3 or 4 times in the span of like 10 sentences, and you start to realize there's a pattern of how this person thinks. So I'm trying to find those patterns, and I'm looking for how those patterns inform me about what the person thinks, what the person feels, and then what the person does as a result of thinking and feeling the way that they do. Whenever you are talking to somebody, this is not just for therapists, this is for you inside your relationships. Whenever you are dealing with someone, if you really want to know the person that you are dealing with, you always pay attention, not to just what they say, because how many of us know people that just lie through their teeth about everything, like over exaggerate all their achievements, like always have a negative tone. We know people that can talk a good game. It's the combination and the patterns that arise from what they say or what they think, what they feel, like the emotion that's attached to it, their behaviors. And then you look at all 3 of them, and the combination of those 3 gives you like their core belief, like what they truly feel inside their heart. If you can figure that out for the people that you are attached to, you are well on your way to being like the most amazing therapist there is. So with this couple, y'all are about to hear who they are, and it's very short. So you really got to pay attention, and you got to pay attention to nuances. You're about to hear who they are, and then you're going to hear about what they want out of the relationship. And based on what you hear, I'm going to want to know who you think is the narcissist and why. So let's start with Jazz. So I told y'all about Jazz before. Jazz is 26 years old. She's a college grad. She's married to Charles. They are a new couple that is coming into therapy for the first time. What's this? Yeah, those lower level braggadocious ones are easier to spot and silent and more deadly than more sophisticated ones are so hard to spot. Yeah, they are, definitely. You're going to hear from Jazz. You're going to hear from Charles. And then after that, we're going to assume that now they're in the room for counseling with you, and they are going to tell you what they want from each other inside of this relationship. And then we're going to talk to y'all about, y'all going to tell me, with y'all being a therapist, what in the world should be done with them. What do they need to get, what questions do we need to ask to get them, into the relationship that they want to be in, and what do we need to do? So let's take a look at what does Jazz want from, let's look at our description of who is Jazz. Jazz is a 26-year-old college graduate. She has a father named Mark, and her mother's name is Sarah. Mark is unemployed due to being an alcoholic. His alcoholism caused him to be an unreliable father in Jazz's life. His addiction was the source of a lot of family drama and arguments that left Jazz feeling neglected and hurt a lot. You can tell that she deeply loves her father, but also has these feelings of resentment and abandonment towards her dad, feeling like he always prioritized alcohol over her. Jazz's mother, Sarah, works as a nurse. She's clearly in a toxic marriage with Mark. They argue in front of Jazz frequently, and sometimes it even gets physical. Their marriage started out with Sarah being like the supportive wife. She's really supportive to Mark, and she tried helping him with his anger and helping him with his alcohol use. But after so much toxic behavior from Mark, Sarah turned into a negative person herself. Her negative ways of coping with Mark strained her relationship with Jazz, making her emotionally unavailable for her daughter. Sarah copes by working shifts at work that are like 12 hours or more. And when she does end up getting free time, she tends to go out partying with her friends. Jazz has mixed feelings about her mom. On the one hand, she appreciates her sacrifices in providing for the family, but she resents her toxic behaviors and the drama that she gets into with her father. Overall, Jazz is a beautiful woman with long natural hair and an addicting smile. She always dresses in the latest fashions and is meticulous in applying her makeup before leaving the house. Her beauty has gained her attention and favor from others. She doesn't say that she has like a lot of friends, but she says she has a wide circle of acquaintances, saying that she just can't trust these hoes. Growing up in a dysfunctional household made Jazz a resilient and independent woman, but her crazy upbringing led her to develop defense mechanisms as a way of coping with her deep insecurities and emotional wounds. She has a strong desire to be successful in life, and her greatest desire is to have the perfect life, the perfect job, and the perfect marriage, and the perfect family. She doesn't like to hear excuses from anybody about anything because she says that her upbringing was harder than anybody else's. She excels at work using her beauty to network and gain opportunities and sees people as assets to advance her own interests. Jazz barely visits her family, and when she does visit, it often ends up becoming an argument where Jazz ends up bringing up the dysfunctional mess and drama and everything that she witnessed growing up. So that is Jazz. And I'm sure a lot of y'all can resonate with who Jazz is. I'm not going to spill everything that, all the takeaways that I got from that, but Jazz is just like a lot of us. Like, she's 26-year-old college grad, working, married, wants the ideal life, wants the perfect marriage, wants the perfect job, like wants to excel in everything that she does. We know tons of people like that. Nothing wrong with that, right? So that is, I don't know, some of the things we're going to talk about, some of the things that y'all, the key things that y'all honed in on Jazz from that. But before we do that, let's hear about Charles and Kim. Kim is Charles's mom. This is who her husband Charles is. Charles is 26 years old and married to Jazz. His father is Charles Sr., and he's a retired teacher who's very reserved, and he prioritizes peace, stability, and like financial security. He got divorced from Charles' mother, Kim, when he was 11, and he got remarried to another woman. But now he spends his time catering to his new wife and helping her with projects around the house. Charles' mom, Kim, has always been like the emotional leech of the family. She's a strong, independent woman, and she's the one that initiated the divorce with Charles' dad when he was 11, claiming that they grew apart and that Charles Sr. didn't put her first in his life. The divorce caused Charles to only be able to see his dad on alternating weekends. Charles would always argue with his two older brothers, Michael and Derek. Michael works overnight stock at Walmart, and he moved out when he was 21. And Derek works at a waste management place and lives at home still with Kim. He says that she still needs help taking care of the bills and things. Charles used to accuse his brothers of getting better treatment from mom. He said it always seemed like mom was always blaming him for something, but when it came to his brothers, Kim would always praise them and brag about them to others. Whenever Charles would get mad or frustrated with Kim, he just shut down, and he would go and lock himself in his bedroom. Their home life made Charles resent both his brothers and Kim. And now growing up as adults, Charles is the one that's always helping his brothers now with things like loaning them money to pay for car tickets. He's always giving them money on like past due light bills and things like that. Charles always tells Jazz about how much his mom gets on his nerves, and he always complains about what she says and does, but when it comes down to it and she calls, he's the first one that answers and comes. That's because Kim always believes in family first over everything. If her children don't follow her directions or her requests, she often tells them that they've betrayed her. She's also got a habit of implying that she's sick when she knows that something important is going on in her son's lives, like a graduation or a big event. She'll go to the event, but she'll go to the event acting like she's sick so that she looks like the dedicated, persevering mother that will never miss her kids' big days. She does this so whenever her sons go against her, she has the ammunition to say that they're ungrateful and reminds them of the things that she's done for them even when she was sick. At times, she'll even put her own children against each other, creating this dynamic where one child is the golden child and the other child is the scapegoat. Overall, Charles is a kind-hearted person, and he goes out of his way to help others and puts other people's needs ahead of his own, and often at his own expense. He tends to be passive and he avoids confrontation, even when it's necessary. He's scared of conflict and he tries to keep the peace at all costs, even when it hurts him. Charles is emotionally connected to Jazz. He says that she makes him want to be a better man, and as a result, he spends most of his time with her, and he struggles to make room for his friends and his family. Charles is an intelligent person, and he's skilled at his job, but he constantly second guesses his abilities, and he's hesitant to take on leadership roles or projects that would really showcase his talents because of that. That is Charles. Sounds like a stand-up guy, right? Like I didn't really hear too much of a problem. Like this is the couple that's coming in to counseling. Charles is the reserved guy. He kind of stays away from conflict, tries to keep the ship sailing smooth, tries to keep the peace everywhere. And then you got Jazz. It's like a perfect mix. It's like you got the reserved person, and then you got the person that can push the envelope a little bit. The person that is a little bit, she keeps the family moving. She keeps the family like forward thinking. That's what you would think, right? So you heard about Charles, you heard about Kim, a little bit about Kim, his mom, and then you heard about Jazz. Right off the bat, who do y'all think is the narcissist? Or is there one? It's all right if y'all don't feel like there is one, but who do you think is the narcissist? And why do you think that they are a narcissist too? Because there was a lot of information inside of those descriptions if you're like listening with the right ears. So I'm really curious as to who y'all came with. So we got Jazz, maybe. So that's interesting. So we got Jazz is the possible person. She's the possible evil one inside the relationship. Who else do we have? How do you get that off the screen? So Jazz and Kim are both narcissists. Jazz's mother checked out, which is an attachment issue. Okay. The mom, Kim. So Kim is okay. So we got, what's that? We got two for the mom and 2 for Jazz. Nobody thinks Charles is the problem. Nobody thinks Charles is a narcissist. I mean, you see the way he dressed? Just like he thought he was all he thought he was all that. I would have thought somebody would have thought that was him. So, got no to Charles. Okay. All right. So this is the couple that you guys are dealing with. So these two have come into your office and they are telling you ask them all the questions. You ask them like, okay, well, why are you guys coming in for counseling? Why do y'all want to talk to me? What is it that y'all want to work on? And Charles is more reserved. You know how men can be a lot of times where they don't talk about like what's going on. You see that he's a little bit more laid back and reserved. Jazz is very detailed. Jazz freely and openly talks about what she thinks and what she feels. Oops, sorry. Kim is definitely the narcissist. Okay. Could Charles and Jazz be the narcissist? Oh, that's interesting. Both of them equally be narcissists. A narcissist in a relationship with a narcissist. That'd be really interesting. So I don't know. So let's find out. So now that these two have come to your office, now that you're all about to talk to them, let's see what is it that they want from one another? What is it that, let's hear from Charles, what is it that he actually wants from Jazz?
Want much from Jazz. I just want her to get her attitude in check. She always finds something wrong with whatever I do and acts like nothing makes her happy. If the house isn't cleaned exactly the way Jazz thinks it needs to be, then she's upset. If I say the wrong words to her or phrase something wrong, she's upset. I always need to be emotionally available and encourage her when she's mad about her job. And if I miss something new she did with her hair and don't compliment her, she says I don't pay her any attention. Really, I just want peace. So if coming to this counseling is going to give us that, then I'll do it.
So after y'all talk to Charles, that's exactly what he says. That's the outcome that he wants from going to counseling with y'all. The main thing that I picked up on that he wants is peace. But inside of that, you heard some of the things that he feels like Jazz is doing. And, you know, which of those things can be corrected? Like, what do you do with what he's telling you? So that's what he wants. Now, compare what he wants to what Jazz is saying the problem is. Oh, wait a minute. He said, he don't sound sus. Stop that. No, he is not. So let's hear. We got an answer change. Oh, okay. Kawhi's locking in on Charles. Okay. All right. So this is what Jazz says that she wants. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. These are very, very, very common things that people are coming into my office saying that they want from one another. So this is not stuff that's made up out of the air. These are very real. This is what Jazz wants. Jazz is a 26-year-old. Wrong video. Sorry. Jazz wants.
Charles isn't assertive enough. Like, he doesn't take any initiative in our relationship. He don't plan no dates. He don't want to go on no trips or do nothing fun. He just goes to work, comes home, turns on the TV, or goes to bed. I want more excitement in our relationship. That's one problem that I have with him. He's also the biggest mama's boy I've ever seen. Whenever his mom calls, he stops everything he's doing and runs to help her like a little dog. He helps her more than he helps me. I'm second place in his life when I should be number one. I did get mad at him and tell him he ain't no man, but I feel justified because it's not like he protects me or holds me down. I have to do everything in the relationship. He's always late paying his half of the bills, and he waits till the day before our phones get shut off to pay the bill. Oh, and I forgot about his disrespectful ass mom. She brings Charles' ex-girlfriend to the family reunion, and Charles didn't even check her. I just want him to care about me. I don't want to feel alone in this relationship and feel like I have to pull all the weight. I want him to use his words instead of leaving every time he gets mad. I want the person I had when we first got together. He always used to hold me down, checked on me, made me feel safe at my lowest moments. I want the Charles that catered to me.
Oh, man. Can y'all imagine sitting across the room from Jazz? Don't you just want to cry? Don't you just want to hug her and tell her it's going to be okay? We'll whip Charles into shape. Didn't you really resonate with her and like really start to like feel sorry for her? Like, you can understand what she's going through. Like, Charles is not exciting. Like, how boring is that if you just want to come home, watch TV, go to bed, and that's your routine? Like, that is incredibly boring. That's really boring. Laura says Charles is the issue. He is passive. He avoids confrontation. He has low self-esteem and self-sabotages. Dang. Okay. So it looks like maybe Charles is the problem. We got to maybe both. we got to know Rena didn't resonate with my description of with Jazz. Charles is enmeshed with his narc mother. She will ruin her son's lives if they let her. That is really interesting. You went to all the sons. It sounds like she's manipulating. And Charles, whoa, Whoa, Laura, you did not like Charles. Charles needs therapy and to go no contact with Kim. I resonate, but I feel empathy, not pity. Got you. Got you. Got you. So think about this is the problem that happens with therapists when you come into, like, when you have these couples that come into the room, you hear these stories that are so filled with emotion that, like, can break your heart, can cause you to resonate with them, and it really causes you to want to take sides. But because you're the person in the driver's seat, because you're the person that's trying to direct them to get to the common goal, you got to stay impartial. So we'll say that Kim is a problem. I would agree. There's some issues with mom that we need to work out. So y'all as therapists, y'all are dealing with them. The first thing that y'all do is you start to pick apart the things that they have said, what you picked out of the descriptions that they gave from what they want from one another, and then the individual descriptions that were played. So what is something that we have learned about Jazz, about what she thinks about Charles, that we think is like real, that you need to keep in the back of your mind as a therapist? All the sons, the younger ones, are already leeching off Charles. That's a good point. It's hard being that big brother that you got to take care of everybody. Like, you feel this need to be the person that holds your family up, because everybody would fall if you didn't swoop in and save the day. So there is something to be said about that. But there's definitely two ways that you can look at it. Rena says he has no boundaries with Kim. The interesting thing is that you could tell he loves his mom. He wants his mom to be taken care of. Think about it. His mom is divorced. So she's basically living alone, but her son Derek lives with her, but she's starting to get up there in age. She's getting older, all by herself. It's easy to see why a son would resonate and want to take care of mom. That's mom's person that gave birth to you, right? I actually like Charles, but he is in danger. Kim will cause him to lose his marriage and get a divorce. He is on a long walk to... Woo, man, you are coming with some heat, Laura. You're not playing around. On a long walk to self-deletion. The younger ones are the useless golden children. So what we need to understand, what you need to gain from all of this is how does Charles see Jazz and how does Jazz see Charles? So if you're looking at Jazz, what is it that she believes about him? For one thing, she believes that he's not assertive enough and he doesn't take initiative inside the relationship. That was the one thing that she really said. He's not spontaneous. He doesn't want to go on trips. Not assertive. And think about this is common in you see this all over Instagram, social media, YouTube, about women that talk about not feeling protected by their men. About women that feel like their marriage or their relationship is getting boring, is getting dull. They're not doing enough. That is really, really, really common. Is that an issue? Because this is something that's caused a lot of cheating and a lot of relationships to go bad. Jazz sees Charles as lazy and unmotivated. There is nothing worse than a lazy man. Nothing worse. But the funny thing, he goes to work. He's got a good job. Pays his half of the bills. But that's not enough for her. So I'm thinking as a therapist, like, this isn't enough for you now. What's the difference between now as opposed to when you first met him? Is he now Has he changed? Was he like that when Jazz first met him? Has he always been and really you can summarize who Charles is in one word. He's a homebody. Where's that too? Homebody should be one. He's a homebody. Like, he's not an extrovert at all. It sounds like he sounds very introverted. He sounds like he's the guy that just wants to, he values working hard, coming home, and being at peace. And remember, that was the one thing he said that he wanted inside the relationship. He said he wanted peace. So Jazz says that he's not assertive. Low income jobs, left home early, no future education. Charles actually got a good job. I will say that. They're both college grads. Charles will be parenting mom and his 2 younger brother if he doesn't cut ties with them. Ooh, so people that know a lot about narcissistic relationships, they know about that going no contact, getting away from them and putting those boundaries up. I will credit you for that. Very interested in his emotional development. So he can't meet Jazz's emotional needs. He needs to work on himself or regress back to that rotten nest. So what do we know that that's what Jazz thinks about him, that he's not assertive, doesn't take the initiative, doesn't go on trips, that he's a mama's boy. There is nothing freaking worse than a mama's boy. Especially that's gotta be a blow too. Like, you being in a relationship with somebody and you feel like their relationship is with their mom and not you. Like, if their mom was being, if you and his mom was being robbed at the same time, he would go save his mom and not you. Like, it's crazy feeling like you're second place inside of a relationship. I mean, I can understand that. So think that he's a mama's boy. And so why would he continue to help his mom even when he knows that it's causing problems inside of his relationship? Is the answer for him to, like, stop helping his mom? I mean, that's something to think about. Jazz is a narcissist about her all the time. Charles married his mother. Charles sounds like the survivor of long-term emotional abuse he needs to heal. This is really interesting. We're hearing all these things, and that's a good point. We're hearing all these things about what Jazz wants from Charles, what Charles is not doing right. Charles is a mama's boy. Charles isn't assertive. Sometimes she gets, and this is the one thing you don't do to a man. If you remember what Jazz said she wanted, she said, yeah, I got mad at him and told him that he's not a man. But she's justified because he doesn't protect her. So my question is, what does it look like for Charles to protect her? Because she said that multiple times. She said, he doesn't protect me. He doesn't hold me down. He doesn't protect me. Protect him from what? Like, he's got a good job. He pays his half of the bills. So financially doesn't sound like the issue. I would doubt that they're getting into random fights outside, and she needs protecting from, like, being beaten up or getting mugged or anything like that. Like, where our wheel should be turning is like, what the heck what does she actually want? We never learned, even though she went through this whole description on what Charles isn't doing. If you paid attention, when did she ever say what she actually wanted? What would actually be good enough? She wants him to fight his mom. Amazing point. And here's the thing. I don't know if any of y'all been in a relationship with somebody that has been too attached to their mother or too attached to somebody else to where you feel like they have been fighting for that other person more so than you, what would be good enough for Charles to do that Jazz could say he's doing a good job of protecting me? Because I guarantee you, in Jazz's eyes, what she wants is she wants Charles to check his mom, curse her out, cut her off, and be done with her. That's probably what she's looking at as being as protection. Like, really, when you think about it, because what, you know, in our minds, what we think somebody should do is often a lot stronger or a lot like more cutthroat than what should really actually happen. Gwen says Charles knew how to get her, but he doesn't know how to be a husband. She does not feel safe with him. Cut everybody off. Maybe he should say no sometimes. And that's what she wants. Emotionally, she is exposed because that emotional incest is real. So we saw all these issues. Of course, we know that there's a problem with Charles and his mom. But at the end, I'm not sure if y'all picked up on it, at the end of Jazz's description of what she wanted, she said something important. She said, Charles was perfect in the beginning. Charles used that word. Charles was perfect in the beginning. He held her down. He checked in on her and he catered to her. That has nothing to do with his mom. That doesn't have anything to do with his mom. So right off the bat, you know that what she wants might not be something that's feasible for Charles to even be able to provide, because the things that we're noticing from Charles is part of his personality. Charles is reserved. Charles is a homebody. Charles likes to work and he likes to come home. So you working with him, you can encourage him. Yeah. Like, hey, Charles, you might want to, take your wife out once in a while. Maybe make sure you have a date night. And then as a therapist, like, you give him the homework, take your wife out on a date night once every 2 weeks. That's your homework. Is that enough? Would that satisfy Jazz to where they don't need to come to counseling, to where she feels like he's the person that she originally met? Let me tell you what I think about when she talks about who Charles was in the beginning. To me, could y'all look at that as a love bomb? Jazz talked about all of these great qualities that Charles had when they first met. Checking in on her, catering to her, holding her down. And now, later on down the line, he's missed the mark. So he needs to get it. He needs to step himself up and get back to that level. What if Charles has been consistent the entire time? It's just that now that time has gone by, it's no longer enough for Jazz. Do you still believe that Charles is at fault? Does Charles need to adapt and take his wife out? What if she needs to go every month? She needs to go on a trip somewhere. Doesn't need to be out of the country, but take me out of state. I need to go at least once a month. We need to go to a nice restaurant, nice hotel, and you need to think of spontaneous things to do each of those times to keep me happy. Is that cool? Would that be cool? It's hard to analyze Charles because is that his personality, or is he in CPTSD from dealing with his toxic family? Great question. We heard everything about what Jazz wants. What do we know about Charles? We know that Charles gives limited responses. He seems to be more reserved and quiet. that Charles makes a lot of mistakes at least in Jazz's eyes. We know that Charles is afraid of conflict, that he always tries to keep the peace. But we also know something else that's important. We know that Charles is a runner. It talked about inside the first video when it was describing Charles that when he gets frustrated with his mom, he shuts down. He'll go to his room and just, stay there. And then Jazz also repeated that one of the things that she wanted from him was that she wanted him to stop leaving when things get tough. So we know that is a part of his personality. We know that Charles is a runner. And we've all seen people like that. We've seen people that, that when things start to get tense, like when problems start to arise, we don't know how to react. So we don't react. We shut down. We leave. That might not take the form. It can take the form of leaving the house, leaving for hours, coming back later. But it can also take the form of being emotionally distant. Like you ever been with somebody and this person argues so much with you that you learned how to tune them out, that they can be yelling, they can be going crazy in front of your face, and you're just like, it doesn't impact you anymore. Like you detached yourself emotionally. That's Charles. That Charles has learned to survive toxic situations by detaching his emotions from the situation. Now, in his relationship with Jazz, it's not working that well because Jazz is saying that he's running from conflict, meaning he's not emotionally attached to her. Charles can't be consistent, much less grow and adapt in a relationship till he addresses his underlying trauma. His response to conflict. He's a runner, a track star. Kim left her family as the oldest. Charles would naturally develop an avoidant attachment style in response to that. What else did we have? Is it unhealthy to escape? That is a great question. Is it unhealthy the fact that Charles shuts down? Is it unhealthy the fact that Charles will leave the house during conflict? Because you got to think of it one way, like it's helped them survive inside the relationship. It's a survival mechanism for him. So that he doesn't get too hurt, so that he doesn't get, too down, too depressed, so that he doesn't leave the relationship altogether. You emotionally check out. People do that when they need to survive. And this word is thrown around a lot. And so much so that we can't even use it nowadays anymore. Trauma. His response to traumatic moments is to shut down. And for those of you that don't know, trauma is simply a deeply distressing experience. So for everybody that's on going out on the web proclaiming to be these trauma specialists, relationship gurus, and they're making a big deal out of it. Trauma is a big deal, but you have to understand trauma in the context of what is happening in a particular situation. Not all trauma is created equally. You can't use that word as a blanket word to cover wrongdoing or to cover anything. Trauma has its place. It has its context. If you don't know the context that accompanies the trauma, then you have no reason to be talking about trauma anything. But Charles has, as a response to the trauma that he's dealt with, being with a toxic mother. And I will tell you this, Charles' mother is a narcissist. Yes, she is definitely a narcissist. Why is she a narcissist? When you think back to the description that was given of what she does, what does she do? She puts her children up against one another. She pits them against each other. One day, Charles might be the favorite. The next day, Charles is the worst person in the world. And Derek is the favorite. One day, Michael is the favorite. And Derek and Charles, y'all can't do right. Y'all betrayed me. Y'all not taking care of mom. So she's interpersonally manipulative. She's a manipulative person. Makes sense as to why she's divorced. And think about her husband. And these are all the pieces you got to put together when you're a therapist. What was the initial description given for Charles Sr.? A retired teacher, reserved, laid back, aka quiet introvert, got remarried and now spends all of his time catering to his new wife. Makes a lot of sense. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Charles took on aspects from his dad. Charles took on part of his personality is from what he possibly saw growing up in the marriage between mother and father. He's also got some traits from dad, and then being raised by mom, having to compete for mom's affection, having to compete with brothers for mom's affection, being gaslit by mom, being loved by my mom. It makes a lot of sense. Charles wants Jazz to respect him as the man and the leader. But how do you respect the passive man? That has been, if I told you how many marriages have come through that has been like the guy wants, like, I want my wife to respect me. I want my wife to look to my leadership. I want her to ask me my opinion on things. So common. But it is very hard to respect a man that seems indecisive. It's hard to respect a man that gives in to what other people want just to keep the peace. You can't say that you want to be the leader, but then the negative aspects that come with leadership, you are afraid to take on. So I can understand why Jazz would have a problem with him, because a lot of women say they want the man to be the provider, to take care of them. But they also have to trust in that man to be able to do that. Charles doesn't seem like he's at a place in life where he can provide that reassurance to Jazz. Doesn't sound like it. He can't take on the leadership roles. He just believes that Jazz has to get her attitude in check. Remember, he said that. He's tired of being emotionally available for her all the time, yet she's not emotionally available for him. So Charles would not be able to go to his friends and get encouragement from them, because that's like a textbook definition for a weak man. Unfortunately, it's very hard to draw support, because especially when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, the gaslighting that occurs causes you to question your sanity. It causes you to question your reality. So a lot of times these people will keep the victims of the narcissist will continue to come to you for reassurance that what's happening to them is not right. They need that constant reassurance, and it ends up pissing you off, because it's like, you know that this person is toxic at this point. I've told you 1,000 times, but you're still not leaving them. So at this point, it's on you. You clearly want to be inside that relationship. That is how people on the outside tend to process that, and why friends get lost a lot of times is because you don't want to sit there and see your friend being hurt. You don't want to see them inside of a relationship with somebody that is emotionally abusing them. So I'm going to give it away to y'all that is, I saw there was a lot of, there's a few people siding with Jazz, but I will let you know that Jazz is also a narcissist. Jazz is a narcissist. I hate to say it because I'm sure there was a lot of people can resonate with what she's what she's going through, but just because I'm saying Jazz is the narcissist does not let Charles off the hook, meaning that Charles is just the victim. Because as a man, there are some issues that Charles needs to take a look at. We do need to look at Charles's self-esteem. Y'all were right in the chat that Charles needs counseling for his self-esteem. Yeah, absolutely. Charles married his mom. Think about it. Kim needs all the attention. She needs all the love from her children. She has requirements from her children. If they don't follow them, if they don't follow her directions, then she manipulates them and make them feel like they've done something wrong. They've betrayed her. What does Jazz do? Jazz wants Charles to cater to her. Jazz has to be the absolute best. Everything she has to do is perfect. Everything that Charles does is wrong. She put him on a pedestal for a while and then knocked him right off of it. And because Charles grew up with low self-esteem and has been gaslit, when he left home and was no longer attached to mom in that way, he married what he knew. Because even though it was toxic, that is his comfort zone. Because what's comforting about a strong, independent woman? That is a narcissist. Got to throw that in there. The thing is comforting is that she'll make a lot of the decisions for you. She'll pick up on the areas that you are weak in. She exudes charisma and confidence. She has that ambition and that drive for success and idyllic love. That's perfect for Charles, because Charles doesn't have the esteem to lead, so he attaches himself to another emotional leech. That's what ends up happening. Once you said mom was one, then I figured Jazz is one, but I'm ready to call all of them narcissists. Kawhi, do you see how complicated this is? Just one relationship, and how all of these external factors play into it. Personality of mom, personality of Charles's dad, Jazz's upbringing. Like, she came from a dysfunctional household, alcoholic father, disconnected mother. You could see how she could develop personality traits that cause her to want to grow up and to have somebody focus on her. We can all resonate with that. You grow up with that kind of craziness in the house. You want to eventually be with somebody that wants to take care of you, that is worried about you. But unfortunately, because of the toxic nature and the dysfunction of your household, you might have a distorted relation or a distorted understanding of perfection. And because you don't know what perfect looks like, because you don't know with what is within the bounds of being catered to and what love looks like, you make up your own definitions. You start imagining how things should be in your eyes, which is that idyllic love, which is one of those characteristics of narcissism. And you start to place those characteristics on other people. And when they don't live up to it, then you're reliving that detachment that you had from your family. Every time they don't show up for you in the way that you want them or think that you need them to show up, they betrayed you. They don't care for you as much. And so what do you do to get them to care for you and to behave the way that they're supposed to behave? You use your narcissist toolkit. You gaslight them. You love bomb them. You devalue them. You hoover. You reel them back in. You take them down a peg, and then once they're fed up and they're ready to leave you, you love bomb them, tell them how great they were to you in the beginning, how much they mean to you, and you reel them back in until they're right back where you want them. These are two couples or two individuals in this relationship that a lot of people can resonate with, and it is very hard to tell who's wrong and who's right. When the wife doesn't like the mom, it's because they are the same. That's a good point. If anyone uses charisma to describe another, please do yourself a favor and run far away. Yeah. Like, people these are real personalities out there, and it's hard to sort out. I think a lot of times our minds, even listening to their story, our minds are telling us to side with one or side with another, when really our job is not to side. Like, we're in the business of, this is treatment. So if we've identified issues that are on both sides, if we've identified Charles' low self-esteem, that needs to be addressed, so we got to set up some individual therapy for Charles. Jazz is going to be the hard one, because we can put her in counseling and talk about the dysfunction, the dysfunctional upbringing that she's had. But think about it. Whenever she goes and visits her family, she talks freely about all the dysfunction that was there. So she knows about the dysfunction she grew up in. So you're not going to teach her or, reveal anything to her that she doesn't know. How do we, and Rita is touching on it now. We had to teach Jazz some personality or character skills, because when you're looking at a narcissist, it's not that a narcissist is purposely malicious. A narcissist doesn't function on a human emotional scale in a way that's normal. There are clear deficiencies, and those deficiencies, where one area is deficient, there's another area or characteristic that's in overdrive, so that the view of self is in overdrive, perception of self is in overdrive. But a normal human characteristic of having a sense of empathy is non-existent. So you have to create those things working with them. That's why you need to be a specialist in working with them. You have to replace those deficiencies or get them to a level of as close to normal as possible. Very difficult to work with a narcissist, because you know how hard it is to get somebody to accept the fact that they're a narcissist? Most of the time when narcissists come to therapy, it's because they're bringing their partner to therapy saying, fix them. It's not because they're looking inward and realizing that they've got something going on with them. So half the battle is getting them in agreement that, hey, this is a collaborative thing. This is a team, a team effort. It's incredibly hard to do. That's why most people, if you look online that talk about being in relationships with narcissists, that's a hard process to go through. So that's why a lot of times the focus is separate yourself, go no contact, depending on the level of, how severe it is. And then the number one tool that you put in place is your boundaries. That is what's mostly talked about. But what's not really talked about is these, how very real these relationships look and how common they are. Even in this one situation, this one case that I kind of talked about you guys with, it's hard. It's hard picking out who the heck was right. Like, how should you think about this person? How should you think about this person? It's very, very, very difficult. That's why I respect the profession of, therapists and counselors and things like that. And that's why I disrespect gurus, because these relationship gurus don't know the depths of what people really go through in life. And a lot of them are narcissists themselves. So, that's a little bit about about this case, this is kind of the format that I'm thinking about for our shows going forward. Like, because I do want to cover topics like on gaslighting. I want to cover treatment. I want to cover like some celebrity stuff that we're going through. What do y'all think about this format in terms of presenting it to you in the way of like a real case? And y'all can be honest, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That just means I go into whatever next format I can look at and see if that's something that resonates. If it's something that truly resonates and it's like, I will tune in for this, then I'll definitely keep these going. But if it's something that needs to be revamped, y'all should know by now, like I will absolutely go back to the drawing board, because my main goal is for people to truly understand personality disorders. That's all that matters, because that saves us in so many relationships, not even romantic relationships, friendships, family members. If we can get this stuff down and we can pass these skills of how to decode these types of things down to our kids, all of our communities would be so much better. So that's going to be, that's the goal. So I definitely want, you guys feedback on, if you feel like, if this format works for you, if it doesn't, anything in between. I see Kawhi Bree. This was good. Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. Feel free to leave inside of leave in the comments. And even when the stream is over, you can post your comments. Let me know if it works for you. I won't take offense to anything if it doesn't. Format is eye-opening. Okay, I'm working. Trying to make it exciting. So I'm working on some different things. These little skits and these little monologues. You notice I put my my preacher music inside the background when they were giving their descriptions of one another, so that way y'all could get the feeling, the emotional feel. You know what I'm talking about. That can you imagine Jazz and Charles and the relationship that they want to have together, and how much hurt and pain that they have gone through together, and the knowledge that Jazz is a narcissist and Charles' narcissistic mother? The trauma that they have gone through doesn't need to be you. Doesn't need to be you. Let's get this stuff right. Let's learn about narcissists. Let's learn about antisocial personalities. Let's learn about borderline personalities. Not to condemn them, but to know what we're looking at and to know how to love people better, to understand people better. And then we'll be well on our way. Yo, I'm gonna cut that up as like a 15-second short and put that as a motivational intro on my channel and see if it goes viral. That way people will take it and think that I was like really inspirational, and then realizing later on when they watch the stream later on that I was only playing around. That would be hilarious. If it went viral, that'd be hilarious. I just wish we had more detail on Jazz. Like, I didn't see where she was gaslighting or if any of it seems like her response was adequate to the situation. Ooh, that's good. Okay. All right, so I need to put in some more detail. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Laura. The McCollum show is funny. Learn that you have to look at the background when the traits aren't obvious. Yes, knowing these people's background situations, their family upbringing, how they behave at work, how they behaved at school growing up, how they behave with their family members, all that stuff is like gold for a therapist. Like it teaches you so much. Even the line between narcissism and narcissistic traits. Oh, that's actually a good point, Laura. So when I'm talking about narcissism, I'm usually talking about the overall concept of narcissism. But what I'm referring to in particular is the set of traits or the criteria that defines a narcissist. So, one is a grandiose sense of self-importance. Two is the fixation, and I talked about this with the ideals of infinite success, control, brilliance, beauty, and idyllic love. Thinking that they're special, unique, and can only be understood with other people that are the same. The desire, the need for excessive praise and admiration, the sense of entitlement, the interpersonally manipulation and oppressive behaviors, no empathy, resenting or being envious of others and believing that others are envious of them, and displaying egotistical or conceited behaviors or attitudes. All of that whole list is, in a nutshell, that is narcissism. So I'm looking at anybody that has at least 5 of those traits that I just read down, 5 of those traits continually as a pattern. They show these as a pattern of behaviors. I'm looking at that as true narcissism. So as a therapist, you would define it as narcissistic personality disorder, but I have to be safe on YouTube and just say narcissist so it doesn't sound like I'm like diagnosing people. But yeah, that is when I'm talking about the line between narcissism and narcissistic traits. Technically, if somebody's displaying 2 or 3 of those traits, then you could say that they've got some narcissistic personality traits. But once we're getting to that 5, 6 traits, now we're looking at a full-blown narcissist. So that's a good point. I need to bake that in somewhere. And the context how the context informs diagnosis. Okay. Oh, you want me to go pretty deep into these things? I was trying not to go too clinical. Okay. If y'all are ready for that type of stuff, I would love to do that. You have to be an extroverted narc to go viral in 2023 and dance. Yeah, if y'all are game for that, I'm trying to like go through like a lot of the basics first. Like it's because I feel like a lot of people are not really talking about the very practical, nuanced ways that this is happening inside relationships, because we don't know how to put names to them yet or describe what it is that we're experiencing. So I wanted to start the basics and kind of build like a cake from there. But you're right, I probably should implement some more descriptive things going forward. What was that? How many is it for a full-blown NPD diagnosis? I believe it's 5 out of the 9 traits. 5 out of 9. Yeah. So normally we would diagnose it through it's really a clinical interview. So we're very much looking at all the things that I kind of talked about today. We are looking at their family upbringing, because one of the determining things is like a clear red flag is coming from a dysfunctional family, because we do know that is one of the causes of developing personality disorders is dysfunctional families. So we got that area. Then we really look at the nuances of the interactions between, if it's a couples thing or if it's an individual thing. And we don't diagnose it by like a partner coming in and saying, I think so-and-so is a narcissist or anything like that. So it's very much, when I talk about like, we listen to what people tell us about their lives and how they talk about things. It's like some MacGyver stuff going on in your brain, to where it's like you're putting things together like a puzzle, and you're searching for meanings in the things that they're saying. You're searching for meanings in their behaviors. So that's why it doesn't take I wouldn't even say a therapist can diagnose it. It has to be a specially skilled therapist trained in personality disorders to really diagnose it. Maybe you can have people send in profiles of people in their lives and dissect them. That would be fun. As long as you don't give me their real names. Talk about attachment. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna try this again as the format for the next show. I did settle on the date. It is going to be Tuesday evenings at 7:30. So you can consistently look forward to me going live. Of course, I'll make sure I post on the community tab reminders, and of course I'll put up the day early the link so y'all can join. If you have any ideas or any profiles you want me to go through, email me, send me a message, DM me, write a comment. You know, all the ways. But I do want to thank all of y'all that did tune in and gave this a try. Like, it does mean enough. It means so much to me that y'all would even tune in for something like this. Like, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. So I sincerely thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Laura, for all of your engagement too. All right, so if all hearts and minds are clear, we are going to adjourn for the night. So may the Lord watch between me and thee while we absent one from another. Amen. Good night, everybody. Love you all.